Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Auto Talk driving review. I am Christian Moe, and today we are in the 2015 Cadillac ATS Coupe 2-liter turbo. The 2015 Cadillac ATS plays in a segment that is dominated by boring Germans. This car's sharp angles and aggressive lines feel very fresh in this market. The large grille, creased headlights, and matching tail lights that wrap up the fenders are interesting and dynamic. Even the integrated turn signals in the mirrors are nice to look at. With the car's dual exhaust, 18-inch alloys, and various chrome accents, the ATS looks both sporty and luxurious. But what is this sexy coupe like to drive and live with? From the cockpit, the ATS is actually a pretty fun little thing to drive. Cadillac is very squarely aiming this at BMW and the 3 Series and the 4 Series. Since this is the coupe, this is technically a 4 Series competitor. But when Cadillac talks about this car, it's very obvious that they are aiming at the Bavarians. Because they don't just tell you how much power it makes or how much it weighs, they tell you how all that stuff is compared to them. So this 2-liter turbo is making 272 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, which is pretty good. But according to Cadillac, that is 13% more horsepower than the BMW, and it's 16% more torque than the BMW. So they want to really accentuate the fact that this is way more powerful than the BMW with the 2-liter turbo. When it comes to weight, this machine weighs 3,400 pounds, which is lighter than anything else in the class. So that's lighter than the Audi A4, that's lighter than the BMW 3 Series, that is lighter than the Mercedes-Benz C-Class. That should also be lighter than the Infiniti G37. So, or I guess it's not G37 anymore, it's the Q50 and Q60, because Infiniti likes to do weird things. But so this car is light, it has a fair bit of power. It's a pretty nippy little thing. The transmission choices are a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic. I do unfortunately have the 6-speed automatic, which it's a fine automatic. I've got nice little metal paddle shifters here on the back, and I click one and it changes down pretty quickly. So 5, 4, 3, I mean, it nicks right through them. You want to go back up the other way, so 3, 4, 5, 6. I mean, changes are really quick. They're really smooth. There's not a lot of judder into it. Of course, it does a little rev match for you, so you don't have the herky-jerkiness. But it's just not as much fun as it would be to have a manual. I enjoy having 3 pedals, having a little extra something to do. Of course, this doesn't give me that. But this is a luxury car, and it does luxury car stuff really well. So I've got beautiful black interior with black accents. So I've got black leather on the wheel and the doors and the seats. And then my center console is piano black. And then I've got piano black here on the steering wheel. I do have these nice little silver touches. Like I've got this brushed aluminum here and a little chrome trim that runs around the speaker. To make sure the cabin doesn't feel too much like a cave, it does have a lighter headliner, which I really appreciate that. I've got a sunroof. I can let some extra sunlight in. Again, brighten things up. Everything feels pretty good. Cadillac's been really good at this lately, but like this armrest feels nice, and the button that operates it feels good, and the shifter feels good, and when you slot it over into the little manual mode, it makes a nice thunk. The steering wheel is nice and thick, and the leather feels soft, and it's very well sewn together, and you can see the stitching, and it all just looks really nice. And then here on the seats, you've got this nice gray contrast stitching that looks really good. You have these little chrome inserts in the seat that you can't feel when you're sitting in them, but they look nice to just look at. There's all those little touches that just make this feel like much more of a luxury machine than a sports car, and it is nice. There are some things I don't like. Mainly it's up here. So Cadillac Q has gotten better, but Cadillac Q is still not great. And my biggest complaint is this bit right here. It does this cool trick where if you touch the bottom of it, the front panel will fold up, and inside is a wireless charging plate, which is new for 2015, so you can charge your phone and hide it back there. It goes back down, but this entire panel is touch sensitive. So if I want to adjust the temperature on the car, I have to sort of hit the button. And if you go slowly, it responds every time. But if you get in the car and it's very hot and you want to turn the air down, you just tap, and it responds every second or third tap. The volume is nice because you can just slide your finger across it, but I haven't found a way to make that work for the air conditioning yet. And I just hate not having real buttons. There are these beautiful little, again, you probably see them when I lift this up, there's this beautiful little chrome bit here, right? But none of these are buttons. You have to touch right above them. So at least you get a place that you can set your hand so you can figure out where you are without looking at it too much. But why couldn't I just get a button to start with? Like, why do I have to fiddle with this entire little touch the screen and see what happens thing? I just want it to work. So I don't want it to be a touch screen. I just want it to be normal. But otherwise, Q's okay. You can hit the little voice command button, tell it to do things, and it will usually listen. You know, you can set the temperature, you can change radio stations, whatever, which, considering I have to tap on the touchscreen to change channels through Sirius XM, being able to hit the button and say tune to Sirius 36 is really nice. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, it's just a nice place to be. This car doesn't actually have a lot of options, so I don't have heated and cooled seats. I don't have anything fancy. My power options are just forward, back, lean the seat back, and then up or down with some lumbar control. So nothing crazy there. It's just a nice general overall luxury car that focuses on getting the things it's doing right rather than adding too many extra things, and I really appreciate that. But let's go ahead and get back on the road here. Hiya! So, like I said, this is a car aimed squarely at the BMW, and Cadillac is quick to point out that it will perform better than the BMW. And they've done some nifty tricks to make that happen. First of all, obviously, is more power in the turbo. But the car is also using Cadillac's first 5-link rear suspension setup, so handling is pretty good. They've got pretty good ride comfort when they're going along. The car does have electrically assisted steering, which I hate, but here it's not terrible. Car actually has a pretty good amount of feedback. It's very direct. Weighting is pretty good. I would like it to be a little heavier, but mostly I'm just picking nits. Actual performance, when you stand on the pedal, drop down some gears, you move forward with some speed, hit the brakes, and you come down from that speed very quickly. Acceleration is strong, brakes are very strong. I do sort of like the way they feel. Pedal's a little squishy at first. You've got just a bit of dead space before it really bites, but once it bites, you can bite hard, and you can modulate it fairly easily. It's not quite so much stepping into a sponge. Said with the multi-rear, or with the multi-link rear, I said handling is pretty good. Car is actually fairly planted. If you turn off traction control and you kick it down a few gears and you really try and beat on this thing, it will slide and squeal tires and whatnot. But for the most part, it actually stays fairly well where you put it. It's kind of a point and squirt thing. So ease off, make your turn, stand on the gas. It'll downshift and get that nice big wave of torque, and you sort of whoosh off into the distance. It's kind of just a nice thing to drive. I do wish it was a little faster, because the chassis feels like it can handle a lot more. Like I said, we've got that new 5-link rear, and it's really planted all the time unless you're just driving like an absolute idiot, or you want to do something like a brake stand. You know, if you just stand on the brakes and stand on the gas, you can light the rear end on fire and just have fun like a hooligan. But as for when you're actually pushing the car just laughs at you. Like, I really wish you could try harder because you're not doing anything. This chassis is very well sorted, and I just constantly want more power. Not because the car's slow, but because the car just lets you know it can easily handle more power. And since it'll handle more power, obviously you want to give it more power. And so I'm constantly playing this game where I think, man, this car feels really great. And then I'll take it onto a really good back road. I'll drop it in the little manual mode, and I'll start knocking it through the gears and just beating on it. And I realize just how good the car really is. It's very well balanced. It's got a 50-50 weight distribution. It hardly will ever understeer unless you come in hot and hard on the brakes deep into a corner. Again, the back end doesn't really want to slide around unless you're just acting like an absolute jackass to try and make it. Otherwise, it's just a very poised and balanced machine that is very playful and very cooperative, and it gives you a lot of confidence. And then, like I said, you really try to push so hard because the car just tells you it can. Then you realize you're running out of juice. Not on the chassis, not out of talent, but like you just can't go that much faster or brake that much harder. And it's just like you want more speed and you want more ability because the car just gives you that feeling that it can handle it. So obviously they do have the V6 version of this, and they do have the turbocharged V6 with the ATS-V. So I'm sure both of those things are quite lovely. And it gives me good confidence in those cars because with as strong as this one feels, I know that those other cars with the bigger engines will be just fine. I really want to get behind the wheel of one of those. So As for this machine itself, like I said, it's a very nice machine. It's fairly well equipped. I've got the Q system with navigation. I've got the new wireless charger. I've got text messaging assistant built into Q. I've got 4G Wi-Fi. I've got my sunroof. I have an upgraded Bose stereo that has fancy noise canceling software. So there's actually some microphones in here somewhere. They're like listening to the noises in the car and then playing noise that you can't hear out of the speakers to dull that noise. Kind of like it works the exact same way a pair of noise canceling headphones works. So it's really nice and really quiet. The ride is comfy, and if you want to, you can put the little thing into comfort mode, and it gets even nicer. Or sorry, touring mode. It's got touring mode and sport mode, and then of course, ice and snow. I've left it in sport mode the entire time that I've had it. The fuel economy for this thing is rated at 21 city, 31 mpg. I'm seeing about 28 combined, which is a lot better than I expected. I did take it one afternoon to try and really push the fuel economy, see how high I could get it. If you're a hypermiling fan, I pushed this thing to 37 mpg, so you can really eke the miles out of it if you want to. But otherwise, like I said, you can just put little traction control mode, stand on the brake, and you can do big burnouts if you want to. It's fantastic. So otherwise, like I said, I enjoy this car. I wish it was a little faster. I wish it had a little more power. Otherwise, I think it's a wonderful machine, and if you want to buy one, I could absolutely see why you would do that. I do know there are a lot of people that will not buy this over a BMW simply because it doesn't have a BMW badge. But with what Cadillac has done with this car and what BMW has done with their new cars, I think it's finally about time where the Americans really are surpassing the Germans at their own game. I like the way this looks better than a BMW. I like the interior better than a BMW. I like most of the equipment better than the BMW. I'm still a bit iffy on Q, but aside from the touch panel, I just like the way everything feels and works better than I do in a BMW. So, I mean, if I was looking to spend $45,445, which is what the MSRP of this is on a car, I probably would not go look at the Bavarians. I would head right over and pick up one of these things. They just look great. They look like the future. They handle well. They're beautifully built. It's just a good overall machine. So again, 2015 Cadillac ATS Coupe with the 2-liter turbo and the 6-speed automatic. It is a fantastically wonderful little machine. I think it's worth a look if you're in a market for this kind of car. Handles well, fuel economy is good. It's just a good machine. I dig it. Anyways, like I said, I'm Christian Mo. This has been a driving review for AutoTalk.com. Thank you guys for joining me, and I guess we will see you next week when we have another car. So, thank you guys for hanging out. I appreciate it.